Open source AI is available to all, not just the few. Meta's open source is free to use, enabling models like Metatron to innovate. Here's Yale professor Dr. Annie Hartley.
Using Meta's open source AI Llama, we built an AI tool that allows clinicians from around the world to collaborate, helping us deliver accurate medical information in the right place at the right time.
Learn how others are building with Meta's free open source AI at ai.meta.com/open.
The Mario Rosenstock Podcast with On Ice, Ireland's premium ice skating experience, where winter memories are made. Visit onice.ie.
Go loud. Sounds better with us.
Coming up on this episode of the Mario Rosenstock Podcast.
So when I book holidays and work, they know there's some weather coming.
That's good.
So if there's a chance of cold coming,
good. They see you tapping away on the computer.
Yeah, and they see me booking holidays, they know it's either in summer, it's either a heat wave.
Lads, we're fucked. Alan's booking a holiday.
Yeah.
Lanzarote.
Or if it's in winter, then in 2018 I booked a week off. They knew that was going to be something
Brilliant.
big. Yeah,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you're a soothsayer of sorts.
Yes.
Alan O'Reilly of Carlow Weather. You know Carlow Weather, don't you? He's the guy that you consult for getting all your weather information from. He's become a bit of a phenomenon in the last few years. He's always had a keen interest in weather, has Alan. And when he combined that with his IT expertise, he discovered that he was pretty good at analysing complex data and predicting the notoriously unpredictable Irish weather. Dare I say, sometimes or often better than Met Éireann even itself. Alan has now become so well known that I had to make him the star of a GIF grub sketch all on his own, and it was a really, really popular one among the listeners, and apparently Alan's phone blew up when he heard that when he was on the radio. But I also wanted to meet the man himself, the driving force behind Carlow Weather, and find out how it all got started, how he manages to call it right so often, his thoughts on our changing climate, and of course what he thought about my GIF grub sketch about him.
Storm Abate, East Cork was obviously going to get really badly flooded, and I was posting on Twitter saying I'm really worried about what's going to happen, and I'm not sure people are ready for it, because it was an orange warning for the whole county, and that's exactly what happened. People in Middleton, in Youghal, in Killa and these places got really badly flooded, and that should have been a red warning for that part of Cork, but the rest of Cork didn't need it, but they're going county by county. When I shared that,
Yes.
they came for me like crazy, because you're part of this conspiracy. What they tried to do is try and say that you're being conned by the stats
Right.
that are being... So you're sharing Met Éireann's official weather station stats,
Yes.
and so you can't trust them. That's fake weather, as your GIF grub said. I would have filled up the bird feeder and generally get 2-3 days out of it, and it was empty within half a day. They obviously knew something was coming and that it was time to feed up. And the funny thing was, I shared it on my Instagram, and then the amount of people messaging me that feed birds, same thing.
Wow.
My full chat with Alan coming right up after this sketch, which we wanted to put out in honour of Carlow Weather, and we got a great reaction to it, and here is what caused all the kerfuffle. Everybody's talking about the weather. But where do we get our weather forecasts from? Years ago, the only weather forecast we ever got was given to us on telly by a man with a stick pointing at a paper chart.
Well, as you can see, tomorrow in Ireland will be overcast and cloudy here. Just stick on the cardboard cloud thingy here. 883 millibars, rising slowly.
Over time, weather forecasters evolved. Oh, Maisie O'Shaughnessy, she's 107 today. She sent in this photo from Kanturk. It's sheeting down. Oh! Nowadays, you can get your weather anywhere, anytime. Apps, podcasts, streamers. Everybody's doing it. Everybody wants it. Weather hobbyists are everywhere, in every county. Waterford. Just looking at me satellite photo there. 16 degrees in Ballytrockle there out near the Golden Fryby. Cork. As you can see there, rain is covering most of the country, but down in Cork, it's actually a beautiful day. It's going to be sun splitting everywhere. Highs in Ringaskiddy there of 24 degrees. Me Daza, ball on there, lads. The days of Met Éireann's monopoly are over. Mainstream weather, it's dead. Met Éireann, what?
Yeah, fake weather.
Fake weather, that's what they are, yeah. This is the only man, this is the only fella worth trusting. The man they're referring to is a weather forecasting phenomenon. The breakout weatherman of the decade. His name is Carlow Weather. It's a beautiful day. Carlow Weather is a weather forecasting superstar. Oh, it's uncanny how often he gets it right. There's a lot of bitterness out there, I'll tell you. And I'm not talking about the weather. Oh! Carlow Weather, aka Alan O'Reilly, has taken weather forecasting by storm. He's a weather rock star. Tuesday morning, it's a dull one. Rain moving down from the north. Wherever he goes, he's mobbed by his thousands of screaming fans. How's it going? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's the Elon Musk of meteorology, the Harry Styles of high pressure. Oh yeah. Thousands come to his signings.
I'm a bit nervous.
Don't be nervous, no.
What's it going to be like tomorrow, Alan?
Mr. Foggin Places in Tipperary, yeah.
Hi, Alan. Would you sign my sunburn, please?
Yeah, no bother.
Thanks.
Yeah. His legendary gigs sell out in seconds. Moderate south to southwest winds, generally cloudy on Tuesday. His new album, Black Ice, has gone platinum, while his breakthrough single, Squally Showers, has over 1 billion listens on Spotify. Pundits and journalists like Eamon Dunphy are flabbergasted.
No, he's the real deal. I think he's the Lionel Messi of weather forecasters.
And Paul Kimmage.
All I'm saying is, how can a guy get it that right so many times? He must be on something.
This summer, Carlow Weather is set to do 2 nights in Croke Park. He's even given us his own forecast. Yeah, prolonged sunny spells should be between 21 and 24 degrees.
Oh my God, it's Carlow Weather!
Oh, how are you?
Ah!
How are you?
Alan!
Yeah, how's it going?
Spit on me, Alan!
No, there's plenty of rain tomorrow, don't worry. And we thought that was worth playing for the day that's in it and the man that's just about to be interviewed. Before we do that, though, my special thanks to onice.ie, our sponsors. Their season has now come to an end, but they do promise that they will be back with us next season. So listen, a million thanks to Jason and all the guys at On Ice. Onice.ie will be back, and thanks for getting involved with the Mario Rosenstock podcast and the podcasting world in general. So let's get straight over to the studio and meet Alan O'Reilly, the man behind the phenomenon that is Carlow Weather.
Well, Alan, it's great to see you. And thanks for doing the Mario Rosenstock podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay. And I suppose the reason you're here right now is because although I knew who you were and everybody around the building knew who you were, we decided a few weeks ago on Gift Grub it was time that we celebrated you and paid tribute to you. And we believe you heard this sketch.
Oh, I did. I got sent it by about 1 million people.
Really?
Yes.
Because I never hear this.
My phone blew up. I was in work. And
were you worried that there was a death in the family? Or?
Well, I didn't know what was going on. And then people kept saying Gift Grub. And I was like, oh, that could go one of two ways.
Right, I know what you mean. It could go either way. He could be taking the piss out of you in a bad way or sort of sending you up in a good way. And it was the second way it was with you, Alan.
Oh, my friends in a WhatsApp group had made up T-shirts of Spit on Me, Alan. And we're promising to order them. Hopefully they haven't.
Are you serious? Spit on me, Alan?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So it was a good story.
It was, yeah. No, it was. In fairness, it was great crack, and it was very positively received. Like a lot of people messaged me, "Oh, you've made it now. You've made Gift Grub."
I saw it on the tweets, and so your phone blew up, and you must have been wondering what the hell is going on here.
I did. I really did wonder what was going on.
Yeah.
And I turned it on then, obviously, because I was in work. I didn't have the radio on, and I caught the very end of it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Because people were texting you going, "You're on the radio now."
Yeah.
Oh, that is just fantastic. I love that. So listen, and that's the reason we're celebrating you, because, I mean, you know, apart from Charlie, our producer on the Ian Dempsey show, on the Ian Dempsey Breakfast show, he would always quote you when it comes to weather, and Matt is always quoting you as well. And I'd known your name before that, and I you know, you'd had some really interesting predictions before about the weather. But it was actually, you know, something. I'm in a kind of a tennis club. I play a lot of tennis. I'm in a tennis club, and they're mainly very conservative people, you know, bankers types.
Right.
And I'd go, "So are you okay to play on Thursday at 1:00?" And he'd go, "I don't think Thursday's going to work out." I went, "Why?" "Carlow Weather says it's going to be really bad." It was really strange hearing it from these Dublin bankers. Carlow Weather says it's going to be very bad.
Yeah.
And it was when it really rang home to me that you kind of have punched through, that you are now followed by normal, just mainstream people who will regard you every bit as good as AccuWeather or Met Air, and maybe even sometimes more, because in a certain way, all of these institutions do have agendas at times, whether it's to play things up sometimes or to play things down and not cause panic, whereas you clearly have no agenda. So, I mean, where did it come from, Alan?
Snow. Love snow. That was the main interest, really. So always loved snow. I was always fascinated about why would it snow? Why would it be sleet? So sometimes it could be rain. And then near me in Hackstown, was that little bit higher, it'd snow there and we get sleet. So trying to record and measure the weather in terms of weather stations, what you need. So I got a weather station in 2007 to get the dew point, which is kind of an important temperature to know if it's going to snow or not. And then I set up the website connected to the computer because I work in IT. I've always worked in IT. So that kind of got carlowweather.com going. And then in 2010, minus 17.7, coldest spot in the country, Tullow.
Your place.
Yeah. And that kind of got a bit of notoriety. Ended up talking to the late Jerry Ryan on the Rhine line and local radio. And then, as the pun goes, it snowballed from there.
It's not the first time you said that.
No. But yeah, and then I suppose social media, and I started posting, my thoughts, what they were worth, which wasn't a lot at the start. And then I've been studying weather for like over 25 years now, really, charts and things like that. And I suppose social media just allows me to share my weather ramblings now with people. But I always say I'm more of a weather communicator than a weather forecaster.
Yeah.
Because what I try and do is take all the information and present it in a way that the layman and woman can understand it and relate to it, rather than talking about hectopascals and isobars. And
yeah, you see, in a way, right, first of all, there's a couple of things here. If you were in any other country, this wouldn't be working.
Yes.
Like if you were Abdul Ahmed Mal Maktoum from Arabia, you would be out of a job, right? Because you just go, and again, there's a sunny days of the and they would go, we're going to give up doing the news now, Abdul, or the weather, because it's the same every day.
Yeah.
But here, there's 4 seasons in every day, and there's mad stuff that happens. And that's why there's an opening for you. But the second thing about it is that as a weather communicator, as you just said, you don't have notions. You have no notions. So you just kind of go, I'm not going to do an impression of you here now, but you just kind of go, well, look, here's the way it's going to be, right? And I'm just collating the information that I see.
Yeah.
And I've been looking around, and I'm not pretending I'm anybody special here. I'm not going to go ho-ho, or I'm not going to go, there's a 107-year-old who sent me a picture of her underpants. and I'm not going to do flowery language, and I'm not going to dress up in a bikini, and I'm not going to flash at you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do weather with my arse, like that they do around the world. Because there's some very sexy weather presentations around the world.
There is.
Particularly in Mexico.
Yes.
And I'm just going to give you the weather. And people go, I like that. He doesn't freak me out.
Although after the recent storm, somebody said they were petrified to turn on Instagram and see my face there.
Right, so you became a kind of a figure of fear.
Yeah, so I tried to tell him I can bring good news too. So I've tried to be sharing some good news forecasts and some good news about that storm's not coming near us. There's a bit of sunshine on Wednesday and a few other bits and pieces to try and, make sure they know I'm not just a doomsday forecaster.
Yeah. How many followers do you have now?
It's gone over 500,000 across the different platforms.
So that would be Instagram?
So Facebook would still be the biggest, followed by Twitter, X and Instagram and TikTok recently. And then Blue Sky and Threads are kind of newish start. Yeah.
And compared to a lot of people who are on Instagram who have large followings similar to you would have even more, I suppose, interaction with your followers, because everybody feels safe talking about the weather in Ireland. It's like a non-threatening.
It is.
It's an equaliser for us all.
And it's also that thing like about you can have 4 seasons in one day, but you can also have a different season in each like province of the Ireland. So like if I find, especially in the summer, if I put up a picture of sunshine, it's beautiful in Carlow because sunny southeast generally is pretty good. You get people straight away. It's bloody awful here in Mayo. It's shocking here in Donegal, because it's almost like, don't you tell me that's what it's like with my back garden. But it engages people, it really does. And then obviously the brides-to-be, the mother of the brides-to-be, getting married on Friday, what's the weather going to be? I get so many of those.
Do you?
Oh, so many of those.
Do you?
And normally it's a week out.
It's to be a week, the weddings.
Yeah, because they're looking at, say, the Met Éireann forecast and they're listening to it and they're only going 3 or 4 days.
Alan, I'm getting married to a lovely fella called Tony on Friday, and I'm looking at the weather forecast and it says it's sleet and snow. Tell me it's not, Alan.
And the funny thing is, when you tell them bad news, you very rarely get a reply.
Right.
It's kind
they
of
only want to hear the good news.
Yeah, I didn't want to hear that, so I'm not giving you a reply.
Have you seen people getting upset and a bit upset about?
No, the worst kind of legs. Maybe it'll change. That's the Irish thing. Maybe it'll change, and obviously,
and very possibly,
very possible.
Yeah,
very possible.
That's amazing.
But I have got some nice messages when I've forecast nice weather, and people have sent me pictures of their wedding day a few days later, saying it was an absolutely beautiful day.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah. As if I was the one that had
Alan is God.
broke the clouds over that particular hotel.
So, do you get abuse?
Oh, lots of abuse.
Tell us, what kind of abuse?
Sometimes it can be that, people think I'm mainstream media because they hear me on national radio and on the stations and that. They'll say to me, oh, you're just mainstream media and you're paid to give us the weather. But the worst part is the conspiracy theorists. There's a lot of that. So no, why won't you talk about the spraying in the skies and
well, let's talk about that.
The chemtrails and
let's talk about that because it's something I kind of sometimes ignore. Actually, I'm very interested in conspiracy theories. I'm fascinated by conspiracy theories. Not that I think man didn't go to the moon. I'm saying I'm fascinated by the thought processes that gets people to that place where there's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Tell me about weather and conspiracy theories. What is it?
So the main thing is the airplanes. So the fact that you get, depending on the weather and the pressure and the temperature or different heights, you have a plane going through the sky, you'll get a trail coming out.
Which we see.
Yeah, called contrails.
Yeah.
So they have convinced themselves that's a chemtrail spraying chemicals on top of us and that the government is controlling the weather by what they spray out of these planes.
Really?
Yeah, and that storms were made to control us and drive fear. Yeah, that get a lot of that.
So, in a sense, so part of this weather conspiracy is that they, which we never know who they are,
yes,
right? We call them anybody from the New World Order to the world government to the Illuminati, to
yes,
the lizards, right? They have the power to change the weather.
Yes,
and they often they'll go are the Democrats as well in America. The Democrats change the weather. And then they don't know what to do when there's a storm in a Democrat state. And they go, well, I don't know, it must have gone wrong or something.
Yeah.
So chemtrails are one. That's the stuff that comes out of the back of the plane.
Yeah.
And they're saying they're spraying us with drugs.
With some chemicals, that controls it. And they call it, the problem is, like a lot of conspiracy, there's a little bit of a basis
Kernel
of fact
truth.
with it.
And
so the cloud seeding that they've done in Dubai and some other countries where they try to basically increase the rainfall in clouds, which is it is a thing. There's not saying that cloud seeding doesn't happen, but we don't cloud seed over Ireland. We get enough rain. Now, the funny thing is, it might come a day with climate change with really dry summers that we might have to. But
so what is? I've heard of cloud seeding. What is it, and does it work?
Basically, I don't know how well it works. It's basically spraying, or I use that word, that'll really drive me mad. But injecting ions into clouds to try and increase basically the pressure or the precipitation out of the clouds. Yeah. It's like if you think about rinsing a cloth. Yeah. It's trying to rinse that cloth a little bit more to get a little bit more out of it.
Is it scientifically proven to be possible?
Yes.
It is.
So
you can precipitate. You can precipitate.
You can increase the precipitation. You can't create it necessarily, but you can increase it. Yes.
Yeah, make it happen almost when it's nearly about to happen.
Yeah.
And that is definitely true.
And that is true. Wow. But it's not happening in Ireland.
Okay. Any other conspiracy theory?
No, it's mainly those two. Again, like the cloud, when there's cloud over, they'll say that the government have put the cloud there. So that's, because they'll put up pictures. Turns out somebody messaged me, because I got a load of these on Facebook one time, and somebody messaged me and said, the reason you're getting them is there's a Telegram channel that you have been mentioned on. Yeah. So there's 1,000 people last time I looked on this Telegram channel talking about weather control in Ireland. Yeah. And they put up a picture of a blue sky this morning and they'd say it was lovely this morning, and then a couple of hours later, now look what they're after doing.
Yeah, I know.
They're after bringing the cloud.
They must be thinking, hey man, Ireland, man, is where all the experimentation is happening, man. They've got it all, man. They do snow, and they do sleet, and they do wind and sun in one day, man. They're all fucked up, man.
Oh, and chemical fog.
Chemical fog?
Yeah.
That's another one, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just fog, it's chemical fog.
It's dry ice, man. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, a more difficult subject for you maybe to address now, the area of climate change. It kind of we always call climate change a kind of an additions of all the weathers that we get over many millennia and years and hundreds of years and everything, and that's climate is different to weather. Yeah. But from your experience of watching weather over the last 20, 25 years, do you see that there's a change in what we're seeing? Yeah, there's no doubt. And generally what I say when I get into these discussions, which I try to stay out of on social media, is the climate is changing. If you want to argue about why it's changing, go over to another room,
and engage in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to blame the cows, or you want to blame, whatever, volcanoes under the sea, whatever else, the climate has changed. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I live in quite a rural part of Carlow. I'm not a farmer, but I'm surrounded by farms. The growing season and the difference that it's made to farmers, it really has changed in the last 10 to 15 years, especially.
Yeah.
And, you can look at the climate stats. They drive people mad. Like, I remember last May, it was the warmest May on record, but it was a particularly rotten May. We didn't really see the sunshine at all. And that was the reason why it was so warm, because at night time, the blanket acts, or the clouds act like a blanket. So the mild nights in May drove the average temperature way up.
Right.
So when it came out in June that May had been the mildest on record, I mean, the amount of people, when I shared that, they came for me like crazy. Because you're part of this conspiracy. How in the name of God do you make out last May was warm? It was the worst May we've had in years.
So even though you're an entirely and pretty much transparently independent operator, people still try to tie you into the mainstream.
Yeah, well, I think what they try to do is, as well, is try and say that you're being conned by the stats.
Right.
That are being, so you're sharing Met Éireann's official weather station stats, and so you can't trust them. That's fake weather, as your gift group said. But yeah, so that the climate change, to me, I always say the climate is changing. And the biggest thing that I because I work in IT, right? I've worked in data centers, that big dirty word, data center, right? So my background has always been IT. I've worked in data centers, and I've spent too many nights in data centers back in the day. And I understand, how data centers work. And Ireland is a great place for them. So I can say that Ireland's a great place for data centers. I can also say the climate is changing and try and have an argument there. But most people then will put you into, you're pro data centers, you're anti-climate change. And then I'll put up a picture of a pond that I've dug in the back garden, or something I've done. And then the people on the other side will come for me and say, you're a green tree hugger. So I end up getting it from both sides. So I generally think if I'm getting it from both sides, I'm probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've talked a lot to people like John Gibbons and other people about climate change and everything on this podcast and on my radio show previously. But, obviously there's broad consensus, and more than broad consensus, that there is climate change.
Yeah.
There was climate change before. There is climate change throughout millennia.
Yes.
And throughout millions of years. There is broad consensus that there's more than broad consensus that this climate change is more than likely man-made.
Yes.
to a lot. And that is very fair to say as well.
It is.
What there isn't broad consensus, or if there is broad consensus about it, it's at least contested, is that the climate change is imminently catastrophic. And because I suppose they would argue, they've been saying for years, the world is going to end in 5 years. It's 12 years. Wait, the Arctic ice will be gone now in 4 years, and then it doesn't, and all this sort of stuff. And then Trump will come out by going, that the 500 years, the ocean will only rise by a quarter of an inch. Now, I think that's a gross exaggeration.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is contestation over the idea that it is imminently catastrophic, or how soon it will be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Or if there is a tipping point at, let's say, 1.5 degrees, how much of a tipping point is that? Is that certain? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And the science there, I think, is there's still a lot of science to be done, because the data that we're getting is relatively, in terms of climate, it's relatively short, because we don't know, in terms of 400, 500 years ago, we don't have proper statistics from what the weather records were.
Yeah.
And there is issues around, like, some of the weather stations that are recording some of the crazy high temperatures. When you look at the location and the quality of the weather stations, they wouldn't be as good as my weather station. And those kind of things, again, play into those.
Just for my listeners, what is a weather station?
It's basically a couple of pieces of equipment stuck to a pole that record, like there's a rain bucket, which is basically a shape of a bucket. It collects rain. There's a little tipping bucket in it. So as the rain comes in, it tips the bucket. That's 1.1 millimetre. And each time it moves, it measures the rainfall. Then you're recording barometer, humidity, temperature, wind direction, wind speed. You might have solar sensors for the strength of the sun, UV. But generally, that's what a weather station is. But the problem with it is, like, if I get a cheap weather station for 30 or 40 quid, and it's got a tiny little plastic sensor, and I stick it out in my back garden on a summer's day in June, July or August, and it'll record 30 degrees. I'll get people sending me pictures going, it's 30 degrees, when the official station says it's 24, because the sensor is heated up.
Yeah.
Because that's why we used to, still use the Stevenson screen that we would have learned about in geography in in school. It's a white box that Met Air and all the officials would put the mercury into. Now they've changed it actually. They're no longer, WMO are no longer accepting mercury. Right. They're not using mercury thermometers anymore. They're now using digital thermometers. Right. But the problem with it is, if you have one on a car park, it's going to radiate heat. Yep. So we have a couple of stations that are not great. Shannon Airport, not a great station.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that the overall picture of the climate that you're getting. But it does mean that when somebody records 40 point something degrees at a weather station somewhere where it's never recorded 40 degrees, and then you get a picture of it and it's on top of a building that's surrounded by concrete.
Yes. So
there's issues with the stats. But what I'm saying to you is that's why the data that's going into climate change, we can't really predict. Like, it's like the whole AMOC and the Gulf Stream is going to shut down. So people get very frustrated and get confused. I get messages from people saying, we were told we were all going to burn, basically. We're going to get 40 degrees in Ireland and it's going to be really hot. And then we get told, no, the AMOC's going to shut down, we're all going to freeze to death. So you get these conflicting reports from science, and both things are a possibility outcome.
And both things are held cognitively dissonantly at the same time to be true. In other words, they are both the result of climate change.
Yes, exactly. But for people that consume the headlines, don't read the reports.
And this is why people like Trump muddy the water as well.
Yes.
They said it was climate change. I'm looking outside, it's freezing.
Yes. and weather and climate, people try and confuse the two of them all the time, and that's the worst thing about weather statistics that are there, because someone will pull a statistic from, 1839 and say, well, it was warmer back then. Did we have climate change back then? Yeah. And it makes it very hard to have that conversation.
What about the different ways that the countries do weather? Do we all do the weather the same, as in report the weather? Like, is everybody the same, or do they use different methods, scientific methods, or even algorithms?
They're similar enough. Like, they're all using pretty much the same weather models. I think the delivery is different. Like, I was in Boston a good few years ago. There was a snowstorm. Man, the Americans, they do weather really good.
Yeah.
Like, they get really passionate about
CGI.
it. But like the augmented reality that they do for the hurricanes, I don't know if you've seen that.
I have.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yes, the man is standing and he's there, I'm drowning at the moment. And then everybody knows it's only like a CGI.
Yes.
And he starts trying to pretend to swim and everything. And it's coming over my car.
Yeah. So they do it really, really well. And then in other countries, they have these really, downplay kind of, yes, it's going to be minus 25 today. Wrap up. Stay warm.
Yeah.
So it does vary a lot, but in general, like I always say, there's the Ryder Cup of weather models, because we have the GFS, which is the main American weather model. Then we have the ECMWF, which is the European weather model.
Ooh.
So it's like the Ryder Cup, and generally the European model has been doing better. In the last few years.
I see. I didn't know that.
The Americans really hate that when they have to rely on the ECMWF weather model for their hurricane tracks.
I see.
Because they give out when the European weather model is able to
Trump
tell them
hate that.
where their hurricanes is going to end up.
We're cancelling the ECM. Yeah. We want the GFS all over Ireland. Yeah, we want that to be used now from now on. Yeah. We want to call it not Bantry Bay, but the Gulf of America now. That's what it's going to be called. And Carlow will be renamed Americarlow.
Oh, dear.
Or something like that. Yeah. You have a bit of an issue with the weather warnings. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think the yellow warnings need to go. I think there's too many of them, and I think people have lost an appreciation of how serious the orange and the red are. Especially the red. Now, we don't get a lot of red warnings, but because people just hear weather warnings, they don't look at the detail.
Yeah.
So when they hear, another warning.
Yeah.
And it could be a completely different warning, as in, Storm Aeon, completely different level. Now, obviously, that got very well highlighted because it was red everywhere across the country. But I think the yellow warnings are a little bit kind of making noise for people.
Yeah.
And also the fact that it's county by county. I mean, in Carlow, second smallest county, might be second best county in Ireland. North to south between Hackstown and Borris, we won't get a whole lot of different weather.
Yeah.
East Cork to West Cork, North Cork to South Cork.
Yeah.
I mean, North Donegal, South Donegal. Like, those counties are just too big to have one weather warning for them.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in Cork, I get people contacting me when there's an orange warning.
Yeah.
And in West Cork, oh my God, this should be in a red. This is unbelievable. How are we going to survive this? And there's people then in Youghal going, there was a bit of a breeze.
Yeah.
What was the warning about?
Yeah.
And that's the problem when you have...
And that can lead to a Boy Who Cried Wolf scenario as well.
That's my whole problem with them, is that people then lose confidence in them. And again, then when I'm sharing a weather warning, and the thing about it is I only ever share the official weather warnings. Some people make up their own warnings. I'm like, no, like
red warning is a potential danger to life.
Yeah, that's basically stay indoors, potential danger to life. But the problem is, like, if we take back Storm Babette and the Middleton flooding that we had, last year, year before. When you're in January, I always wonder which one was last year. But anyway, Storm Babette, East Cork was obviously going to get really badly flooded. And I was posting on Twitter saying, I'm really worried about what's going to happen, and I'm not sure people are ready for it, because it was an orange warning for the whole county, and that's exactly what happened. People in Middleton, in Youghal, in Killa, and these places got really badly flooded. And that should have been a red warning for that part of Cork, but the rest of Cork didn't need it. But they're going county by county.
You work in IT.
I do.
I have known nothing about IT, so try and explain to me what you do.
So I started off as the little nerd in the school. First guy in Tulla Community School to have a laptop back in 1996.
Were you?
Yeah, 97.
Yeah, great. So your parents bought you a laptop?
Worked myself, working from the time age I was 13.
Yeah.
Outside school and different jobs. So I bought a laptop and I used to fix computers. So I used to go around. I was back in the day when people were getting dial up and getting their first computer and stuff, I used to help people set them up and fix them and stuff.
Right.
So I always wanted to work in IT.
Yeah.
Went to college, did kind of his first...
Carlow IT?
Carlow IT, yeah. SETU as it is now. And I did 2 years there and liked it. And then, because I had kind of got a little bit of an aptitude for general IT, they said to me, oh, your programming skills are really good. And there wasn't enough people going into the programming, so they pushed me into the computer programming. In third year, you could go between either systems or programming.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 months of learning code, and I was like, this is not for me. I'm out of here.
Does your head in?
Yeah. So I left college. I went back. I was working in a pub since I was 14, 15, behind the bar, stocking shelves, and then working in the pub. So I went back to manage the bar for a couple of months and was figuring out what I do. I applied for a job, got my first IT job, Sun Life in Waterford, helping Canadians, Newfoundland, talking about snow, connecting over VPNs and different things. I worked there for a year, and then I went to work in Intel. So I worked in Intel for a good few years.
Nice.
And then I worked for a local IT company in Naas for another good few years. And then I'm in Black Knight in Carlow now, be 15 years this year.
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone through different stages of IT.
Black Knight is a big company, isn't it?
Yeah, we employ about 55 people now.
Yeah.
So we're kind of the largest Irish-owned company that looks after domain names, hosting.
Domain names, yeah. That's what I was seeing it on my thing for my websites and things.
Yeah, we host websites and domain. We do lots of other things. I won't bore you with them all, but connectivity, cloud and things like that. So I was an engineer there and then I progressed. So I'm one of the managers there now. So my official title is Customer Experience Manager.
Customer Experience Manager, right. And does the fact that you become a kind of a bit of a weather celebrity change your situation at work?
No, I mean, I've always kind of done work outside of work, if you know what I mean, in terms of, I would have been very much doing bits in the evening and that. So if it's busy with the weather, I make up the time. But if it's going to be really something big like the snow in 2018 or that, I book holidays. So when I book holidays and work, they know there's some weather coming.
That's good.
So if there's a chance of cold coming,
good. They see you tapping away on the computer.
Yeah, and they see me booking holidays. They know it's either in summer, it's either a heat wave.
Lads, we're fucked. Alan's booking a holiday in Lanzarote.
Or if it's in winter, then in 2018 I booked a week off. They knew that was going to be something big. Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah.
So you're a soothsayer of sorts.
Yes.
Oh God, what's your favourite weather? What weather do you like? What?
Snow over anything. Yeah,
you love
cold and snow.
And do you like Christmas?
Or
just any time that it snows.
Anytime that it snows. March doesn't matter.
Would you go looking for snow?
I am. I've been meaning to. For my 40th birthday, I wanted to go on a snow trip, and then COVID came, so I'm actually only getting to go on it next week.
Great. What are you doing?
Going to Norway.
Yeah.
To hopefully do some photography of the Northern Lights.
Amazing.
And hopefully lots of snow and ice.
Yeah. You'll be in your element.
Yeah,
Will you be in an igloo or anything? Or
no, we're staying in a cabin. I'm going with a friend of mine, Bernard Garrity. He kind of does landscape tours, so he's a professional photographer, and he brings people to these places and then teaches you how to shoot the Northern Lights in a better way. Because I only ever really do it with my iPhone. I have a DSLR that I don't use. So, but and look, the temperatures there at Senja Island, it's on the northwest, so it can vary from 0 to minus 25.
Yeah.
So but Northern Lights, I mean, he showed me some of the stuff he's captured there. Is fascinating. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I booked that over a year ago, so I've been waiting.
Oh my God! Right, so you're going to do it next week. Oh, that's a trip of a lifetime, Vijay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I bet you can't wait.
Because it gets awkward in my house because the wife wants to go somewhere sunny and warm, and I hate sunshine.
Do you?
Like, I'm the Irish guy under the umbrella with a towel over my legs in case the sunshine happens to catch.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know. They hate it. They stay away from it.
I'm just not.
And your wife is a sun worshipper.
Yeah, she loves it.
Yeah. So she's not going to Norway.
No.
Right.
No.
She's not going off to Lanzarote or something.
No.
He's sending pictures to you. Wow, that's great. And and you love nature as well. I
do.
I can see that.
Yeah, no, I do. Like, I've always been interested. I'd say, lived in the country, always grew up. Like, I spent my childhood, teenage years rambling the fields. Do you know, like, we never got to walk around town or hang out around town. We would have been walking the fields and, you know, hunting and like looking at frozen ponds and stuff and things like that when we were younger.
Can animals know weather? Do you think
they sense changes in weather
before we do? Obviously,
yeah. So
they sense.
So the Thursday before the storm came, my bird feeders got emptied in a day, and they would never get emptied in a day.
So explain to me now. You're at bird feeders. That's food for the birds.
Yeah.
What kind of birds?
All just small little birds.
Like sparrows and robins?
Yeah, goldfinches, blue tits, green tit or grey tits, green finches, house sparrows, all those. And I got one of my family members bought me a video one for Christmas. So now I get all the pings notifications to my phone of what type of bird has landed.
Oh, it can tell?
Yeah, it has AI.
It reads the bird.
It'll detect the bird, and it's very good. But I have an old type bird feeder, which is just, you know, hanging bird feeders, and I feed them in the winter and autumn.
Alan, there's an eagle in the fucking house.
Well, there's buzzards around my back garden which haven't landed at the bird feeder yet, but I'm waiting.
AI just reads the birds.
Yeah, takes a picture of it and processes and detects it. But yeah, they went mental on Thursday.
So explain that to me. They went mental. Doing what?
So I would have filled up the bird feeder and generally get 2-3 days out of it, and it was empty within half a day.
Point being?
They obviously knew something was coming and that it was time to feed up.
Feed up?
Yeah. Well, that's the only...
So this was their equivalent of going to Lidl and buying bread?
That was them buying the bread and milk and emptying shelves.
And you had the bird newsreader going, don't go after the shelves, it'll be fine, tweet.
And the funny thing was, I shared it on my Instagram, and then the amount of people messaged me that feed birds, same thing.
Wow.
So
in that sense, they could sense.
They sense the pressure. I think
it's pressure, is it?
Yeah.
It's the pressure in the air.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not surprising the way migratory birds, they can travel 3,000-4,000 miles and all this sort of stuff. They know the whole thing inside out, don't they?
True.
Yeah. So some of your big hits, sorry, this is like you've had rock and roll records now, Alan. Like you had it in 2010 with I'm telling Jerry Ryan where to get off here. Minus 17.7. That was the big freeze of 2020.
Yeah, there was 2 freezes actually in 2010, which a lot of people forget about. There was January and then there was December. Yeah. So it was like, that was a really good year. Really bad year.
Yeah, really bad year, yeah. And you were on Jerry Ryan, and so you talked to Jerry about that.
Yeah.
And then you forecasted the big snow for Storm Emma in 2018. That was a really big one. That's when we made forts and everything in that.
Yeah, and that was where a lot of people, I think, found me online, because I was sharing charts about 10 days to 14 days even before that, because the weather models picked up that signal really early. So I started posting like, this is really interesting. And then about a week out, I was saying, this is going to be serious. So a lot of people, especially locally, followed me after that, because I suppose I had talked about it before. Probably most people had even any idea of what was coming.
Yeah. That's really, really interesting. And then there was the Storm Darwin in 2014.
Yes.
You called into Liveline.
I did, yeah.
Joe, you're talking to Joe.
Because I was...
Alan O'Reilly, Carlow Weather, good afternoon to you. Alan, this is terrible, is it? It's a disaster. Darwin, we're all finished. Evolution.
It was pretty much like that. It was... Darwin was interesting because there was no storm names back then. So the only reason it was called Storm Darwin because it was on Darwin Day. And actually after Storm Darwin, that's when they introduced the naming of storms in Ireland. But I could see down in Kerry the weather reports that were coming in and some of the tweets and stuff that were coming in, that this was going to be a serious storm. And it seemed to me like everybody else in the country was kind of oblivious to what was
But
happening.
were they? And were they? So you weren't getting it on the news.
There wasn't really the same, no.
Well, just explain to me why that would have been the case.
Back in 2014, I think, the weather forecasts would have been there, but there wouldn't have been the same social media and online stuff about the weather.
Yeah.
So I think people would have thought, there's a bit of a storm coming.
Yeah.
But when it hit, it became obvious that this was going to be a really significant storm. And kind of like with Storm Ao now, there was people in Kerry with no power for a week. I mean, I remember the stories that came out of that. But I rang Liveline and said to the researcher that, there's a serious storm hitting Kerry and it's going to arrive in Dublin in a couple of hours. And this is,
Joe, there's a lunatic on the line.
I know.
These fucking lulas. Put them on. Good afternoon to you. We love lulas on Liveline.
So, and since then, myself and Joe talk on a regular basis.
So you ring in every so often?
Or they might contact me to ask me what my opinion is.
That is great stuff. That's very funny. Why don't you start your own weather, Alan O'Reilly, Carlow Weather International?
Yeah, I think the best part about it is that it's a hobby. And I can do as much.
It is a hobby?
Yeah, it's just a hobby.
Yeah.
So I can do as much of it or as little
You don't
of it.
care to make business out of it?
No.
It's like
I'm lucky.
me
I
playing tennis.
I have a good job. I work hard.
And you like your job?
Yeah, I like my job.
Yeah.
And it's local and all that kind of stuff. So to me, at the moment, and for the foreseeable future, it's a hobby. If some big weather person wants to come in and offer me €10 million to retire and do weather, but no,
it's So you're not going to pursue it yourself. Yeah, you like your job and you like your lifestyle.
And also,
do you have kids?
I have have one girl.
Yeah.
But also, people don't pay for weather in Ireland. People always say that to me when they say, "Would you not monetize it?" I said, "Nobody's going to pay for the weather."
Right.
And people kind of think about it and go, "Oh, actually, you're probably right."
Yeah.
Because no one's going to pay for the weather. But no, I really do enjoy it. Like I am a brand ambassador for a garage in Carlow.
Yeah.
So for Auto Image in Carlow. So I get to drive a car for them. And in fairness, with the storm recently, people bought me pizzas. I have this thing because it's called Buy Me a Coffee, right? But I don't drink coffee and I have a thing against coffee. I don't like coffee, right? So you can change to Buy Me a Pizza.
Right.
So I had that link is in my profile. So to be fair, a lot of people watching the storm bought me pizzas.
Right.
So I'm going to be dining out on pizzas this weekend.
Okay. Let me see. What can I ask you next? What do you like? There's a lot of beautiful language in weather as well. Do you like weather descriptions?
There is, and I love when people get a new word. And the famous one that ended up in Modern Ireland was grapple.
Oh, Jesus, that sounds great. What's that?
It's snow drizzle, basically.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And it's common enough, actually.
Grapple.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
I love words.
And it's a German, I think it's a German word. But basically it means snow. It's those real fine grains of snow. It looks like dandruff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you get it when it's really dry, when it's really cold and it's kind of not enough precipitation. So it's kind of like a really fine snow drizzle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's amazing when I share that, people are like, "You made up that word? That's something you made up?" And I had to post like scientific links to go, "No, this is a real weather thing." And it is very well known in other countries just because we don't get snow a whole lot.
Yeah, because when we grow up as well and we do a bit of geography, you kind of learn, you barely learn the names of clouds and stuff, and cumulus and nimbus and those kind of things. And they're kind of interesting.
Yeah, and like we had lenticular clouds there recently, which look like kind of UFOs. They're stacked clouds.
I saw them.
Yeah, and when the sun hits them at sunset, they light up like pink, fluffy clouds. And again, conspiracy theorists, why are there man-made clouds in the sky?
I know.
Yeah, but no, Lennies, as we call them. Lennies,
lenticulars, yeah.
Yeah, they're lovely.
Wow, they are lovely. Yeah, that's fascinating. Grapple. Fair play to you. You know what? One of the things we always do as well with weather forecasters like yourself is people always try to imagine can you tell us a little bit far out what our summer might be like? And people always do that. And I think you've done that as well. And I think you were kind of got that right a few times.
No, I generally don't do long range forecasts. I will give.
What is a long range forecast? I mean, I know what the words mean, but what can a long range forecast be?
Generally, it's monthly. So Met Éireann do produce a monthly forecast, and the UK Met Office produce a monthly and a 3-month forecast. And they look at some of the big drivers like the North Atlantic Oscillation, the MDO phases and things like that. And
El Nino and
yeah, exactly. But the problem is, as a small island on the edge of the Atlantic, those can influence our weather, but they don't control our weather. And for me, like, and when you've had 2 crap summers in a row, people say, "Please tell me it's going to be a good summer." It has to be a good summer, but there's no way to know. There isn't. Like the weather forecast, the monthly long range ones, they're just not there yet. Now, You might be able to say, for example, I only shared the UK Met Office, they have a 3-monthly one. There's a 2.5 times more likely to be mild, wet and windy weather. 2.5 times more likely. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means there's 2.5 times the chance that we're going to be in this Atlantic or active regime, or there's a few different phrases they use for it, where our influence of weather is coming from the west. And nothing good ever came from the west in terms of weather. You know, because we get the beast from the east, we get the pest from the west.
Yeah, the beast from the east. Yeah.
So, no, I don't generally do, like what I do, and I think a lot of people follow me, is I do look at the trends for the next 2 weeks. So I will share that basically the next 10 to 14 days, what the trends are showing at the moment is that high pressure is more likely than low pressure. And then in the summer, when people are getting really down, especially the last 2 years, and it's wet and it's cold and, you know, it's crap, I will share, look, the weather model is showing there's a chance there's a bit of fine weather coming. So electric picnic is one of the biggest things.
You get asked about big time.
Get huge amount of questions about 2 weeks out, because I started doing it a couple of years ago. I'm doing a lot of posts about electric picnic because it's quite local to me in Stradbally, Tullow. It's not a million miles away. I started sharing forecasts with it. So a lot of people will ask me, well, how's it looking for EP? And it'll be 10 days out. And you will have an idea. I mean, you won't have the accuracy. And it depends. Like I look at the two, again, the Ryder Cup of weather models, the two main models. When they're in agreement and they're consistently showing something, you have a good confidence that that's what's going to happen. But when the two of them are in complete disagreement and they're flip-flopping all over the place, you'll say, look, it's really uncertain. So I do try and go beyond the 5 days to give an idea of what's happening.
We'll put this out, I think, before the big rugby match on Saturday. So do you have any idea what it'll be like in Dublin on Saturday for the big rugby match?
Yeah, a little bit milder. Not as cold, but still chilly. And it looks like the rain will hold off out west until Saturday night.
Yeah, so we might get it dry and not too cold.
Yeah, maybe a little chance of a shower, but not too bad at all.
Not gushing dash.
No.
Yeah, that's good.
No, not proper rugby weather. I played rugby in the Black Gates, the home of the Tulla Tank, Sean O'Brien. And we always loved the mucky, proper rugby weather. Now, I only played until I was 14 or 15. Yeah. And then I realised, as a short arse I am, that coming up against lads that are 4 foot taller than you on a rugby pitch, no, I'll stick to the soccer. So I stuck to the soccer.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say regarding misconceptions about what you do? Or
a lot of people think it's my full-time job. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of people think that I'm paid by a lot of radio stations, which I'm not.
Yes.
And no,
so you do it for free?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, yeah.
RTE don't even say.
You might get a little payment.
RTE do sometimes a contributor's fee.
Yeah, but it's very little and it's very ad hoc. So I suppose I'm not being paid by anybody to do the weather. It's just a hobby and it's just a passion I have.
Yeah. Do you like football?
I do.
I'm just wondering, who do you support?
Aston Villa.
I'm just wondering if we can mix weather with, people. I just see Alan going into the pub and just some Egypt just making small talk with you. I see Villa lost again. What's it like tomorrow? Pissing down, Alan.
It's people always slag me why I supported Villa, but when I was growing up, Townsend, Houghton,
Steve,
Paul McGrath, God.
Yes.
All the Irish were playing for them. That's why I picked Aston Villa. And actually I got sent a hat by Paul McGrath recently, which I'm nearly going to frame.
And I've asked Paul to appear on this podcast as well.
Paul's an absolute legend. Like I went to Villa Park. I remember the first time I went to Villa Park and I was just so proud to see all these people wearing jerseys with number 4 and just God over it. Didn't say McGrath, just said God.
Well, he had one of his greatest ever seasons. He was player of the year, I think, in the Premier League at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
And that was unusual.
Yeah.
He was either player of the year, I think.
And it's funny because I have quite a bit of Aston Villa gear that I wear when I'm doing some of the videos that I do my forecast.
Yeah.
And I always get a bit of, like the other Villa fans are, oh, you're a Villa fan. And then other people are like, oh yeah, you were crap at the weekend, or,
Why do you always wear the Liverpool gear when it's going to be sunny?
But it's funny.
You should really troll people like that.
Because my two brothers are older brothers, they're twins, and they're 4.5 years older than me. They're Liverpool fans. So I'm an ABL.
Yeah.
Right? So I support two teams.
Yeah.
Aston Villa and whoever's playing Liverpool.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that, yeah. And do you ever wear, would you ever wear the Irish jersey when you're doing it before a match or anything? Do you just keep it, no notions?
I generally know notions. Yeah. My friends will be listening to this podcast and they'll be laughing their arse off because they think I have notions. Yeah. But no, generally it's just, and the pieces, the camera is something I only.
Because you were saying to me that you're going to get a Range Rover. Sorry, he was laughing. You said it to me and Leanne. He says he's hoping to monetize the shit out of this.
Yeah.
And he's moving to, where is it? That place, Saint-Tropez, is it?
Yeah.
Fuck out of here, he said.
But yeah,
I know you want to get out. What is it? You want to get the fuck out of Carlow? Was that what you said? No,
get me in trouble now.
Kip.
And that's funny as well, because I end up always supporting and obviously promoting Carlow because I'm from Carlow.
Yeah.
I always think it's a great county.
Yeah.
And then some people are like, so what is there in Carlow?
Yeah.
And then he starts showing them pictures and just, all right, didn't know that was in Carlow.
All right, yeah.
You know.
A very good friend of mine comes from Carlow, Frank Mannion. His mother was Anna Mannion. She was a teacher, and the father. The father were the English teachers. Mother Anna Mannion, and the father was an English teacher in school in Carlow. And so Catherine Thomas must be worried that you're coming up on the outside, Alan. You're going to take her celebrity from Carlow.
Yeah,
and is the George Bernard Shaw Theatre still there?
It is, of course.
Yeah,
the visual of George Bernard Shaw. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
good theatre. Alan, listen, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and talking to you. And I'm not going to say continued success because it's not your job and you're already happy in your job, but you're a really nice addition to our, especially the social media scene. There's such a lot of toxicity around it, and you've brought something fun and fresh and non-notions and reliability to it. So thanks a million for coming on the podcast and also being such a good sport about the sketch.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the sketch.
Not at all. Thanks, Alan.
Cheers.
And my thanks to Alan O'Reilly for coming in to the Mario Rosenstock podcast all the way up from Carlow to my studio in Marconi House. Thanks to you for listening. Remember, if you can, tell one other person about this podcast. Come and see me live all over Ireland in my brand new show, Gift Grub Live 25, celebrating 25 years of Gift Grub on the radio, and my special show, the biggest show of my life, at the 3 Arena, Friday 28th of March. It will be a special show. I can see it coming together already. I know what it's going to be in it, and it's going to be a brilliant night, and please share it with me there. Ticketmaster.ie for details. Other than that, I'll see you at the same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.
The Mario Rosenstock Podcast with On Ice, Ireland's premium ice skating experience, where winter memories are made. Visit onice.ie.
Go loud. Sounds better with us.